I have like around 1/3 of my net worth in the DAO. How can I get it out? So that's how I started to learn Solidity, and I actually did find a way to get my money out of the DAO. But at the time, I was scared of being labeled as an attacker when I knew there was a fork, so I didn't even execute it. And that's how I ended up into smart contracts. Chain never gave up. And the other thing is that that's a quote of someone at Manifest, which was Shane was not afraid of going to jail, and that's why he won. You don't have this issue of whale manipulation because manipulation doesn't stay. So if you are voting and a whale vote in a particular way, this vote is gonna be counted in the final tally, right? Now, if you have a prediction market and someone is buying some outcome at prices which are way higher than what it's actually worth, then someone is just gonna sell those outcome on the market because now the prices is way too high, and so then they can make some profit.
And we're live. Hello, humans, believers in decentralization, participation, direct democracy, and all the good things that we have in crypto that will change our societies and eventually, hopefully, the whole world. Today, we have a very special guest, one of the OGs I ever met in my life, Clement Lesaege, and I have to tell you that I met Clement first time in 2018 when it was one of my first crypto conferences in France. It was the FCC, and I remember him giving us a workshop on game theory and mechanism design. And he always has the projects that, people don't just do for money because these projects are not overhyped, but they are always revolutionary. So Clement was the first to create decentralized courts. He was one of the first ones who created a human network on a blockchain. And now he's pioneering the use of prediction markets in pretty beneficial for humanity contexts like allocating grant funding. And this is hopefully everything that we will cover today. So, I never heard your initial story of how you got into crypto, and I want to hear it today. So, it would be very interesting.
Yeah, so I got into crypto in 2013. At the time, I was involved in the French Pirate Party, so running for elections, and there were other Pirate Party members, not in France actually, in Sweden and Belgium, Rick Faldinger and Plume, which were talking about Bitcoin, and that's how I ended up like introduced to Bitcoin, and I ended up being a local Bitcoin seller basically as my student job. Like I was buying some coin on centralized exchanges. Well, at the time, they were the only exchanges, so we did not even call them centralized exchanges. It was just exchanges, and then selling them on local Bitcoin for cash. Sometimes meeting people in the street or in my home, and like they gave me a few euro, and I give them some Bitcoin, and sometimes even teach them how to install the clients and make their first Bitcoin transactions. And after I went to Georgia Tech, where I had like a heavy workload as a student, so was not that much active for a year. And when I finally graduated, it was the time of Ethereum release. And yeah, I put some money in the DAO, and the DAO got hacked. And I was like, oh
Yeah.
fuck, I have like around 1/3 of my net worth in the DAO. How can I get it out? So that's how I started to learn Solidity. And I actually did find a way to get my money out of the DAO. But at the time, I was scared of being labeled as an attacker when I knew there was a fork, so I didn't even execute it. And that's how I ended up into, like into Ethereum and smart contracts. And yeah, and after I graduated, I work on Kleros.
Great story. I wasn't that active in 2013. We just discussed how Bitcoin was banned and fell down a lot back then because of China banning it. And yeah, I later rejoined only in 2016. But I just was looking at the DAO hack from the perspective of a guy who was just still trading on centralized exchanges. And, true, true. By the way, the first decentralized exchange, I think it was 2014, Beat Shares, right? So,
I don't even know about BitShares. I never used it. The first DEX I used was IDEX.
yes,
And it
for
was
me
not
as
a
well.
full DEX. It was like non-custodian, like they could not steal your money, but you still require them to run some matching algorithm.
Yeah, and they still, the funds still disappeared, and for no reason from their smart contracts. I remember it.
Sure of that?
It happened to me once.
Well, fortunately, I didn't lose any fund there. So
Yeah, I was also trading on IDEX before the new projects came out on centralized exchanges. That was a working strategy back then. Yeah. Right. So I want to ask you the question that everybody has. People don't even know about the fact that decentralized courts exist. And could you tell us more how they actually work and what can you utilize them for?
So you can see Kleros basically as a subjective oracle. Uh, if you are trading like one token for another, everything is purely objective and computable, so you don't need an oracle for that. But now, if you want to pay someone conditionally on some work being done, if you want to pay some money conditionally on someone being a president, like in a prediction market, if you want to take the deposit of someone if they are posting content which violates some policy, for all of that, you need some level of subjectivity. So for that, you need a subjective oracle. So what you generally do, you ask people to put a bond, and they claim something, and if someone thinks that their claim is wrong, then they can challenge that, and now you have a Kleros dispute where we're gonna draw some jurors, they're gonna look at evidence of both sides, and they're gonna determine which side is correct. And for the jurors, it's a shilling coin system, where the basic idea is that if you tend to be coherent with other jurors, you will get arbitration fees and token, but if you tend to be incoherent with other jurors, you will lose your token across time. So even if we don't have a centralized party to say, hey, you are a good worker or you're a bad worker, your coherence with other workers is going to determine your profit and losses.
So I believe then it's mostly used for, let's say, easy situations where usually the majority won't lie to you because they actually know the exact answer, which side is wrong or right in this court appeal, let's say, right? So it won't be like we have pretty hard situations when there's like 12 people in the jury, I mean in real life, and you don't have evidence to actually understand if the person is guilty or not. And like what are the best contexts that decentralized courts work in? That's my question.
It's context. It's like anything which can be publicly verifiable. So,
Mhm.
for example, if it can be like a very large dispute, like for example, for the last US, yeah, not this one, but the last US election, uh, you had some people claiming whether Trump was won the election or did not win the election, and then for that you have a dispute. And here, even if there may be million at stake, pretty much everyone are able to look at the news, determine if you can trust the counting of the votes or not, and then they can make themselves an opinion and they can vote whether or not this market should resolve for Trump or not. You can have like very small markets. Like, is this person human, and did his video application follow some rules that have been laid out? So you can really go from dispute about like, I don't know, like $10 to dispute about multiple million of dollars, as long as the information can be put online. So what you don't want is obviously if you have some corporation which are contracting with each other and they're trading in secret. Well, in this case, it's not gonna be good. Actually, like even the classic core system is not gonna be good because it's also public. So for very specific cases, you may want to use classic arbitration. But if the information can be public, you can use Kleros.
Got it. So prediction markets is one of the best things it can be used for, right? Did you have a court about that popular Zelensky costume case?
Oh, yeah. There's also a dispute about Zelensky's suit. Um, Sometimes you may have some market, some question where there is no one answer which is extremely obvious. Like for me, I actually would say that he was wearing a suit. That was also the ruling of Kleros. But if someone tell me, oh, it was not a suit, I'm not gonna say liar. I'm gonna say, yeah, maybe we have difference of opinion,
Yeah,
and
definitions.
yeah, and you will have sometimes on some of those cases, and those cases also because they often go to disputes because if they are clear cut, you have no side having an interest into putting a bond if they know they will lose. But some of those cases, like you have one oracle answering yes, like Kleros, one other oracle which was Humor for Polymarket answering no. And I'm not saying that both of the answers are equally valid, but I'm gonna say that the validity is not 0 or 1. Like if Kleros had answered no, I would not have said the Kleros is broken, even if personally I think the answer is yes. And that was
So of
also
course,
fortunately.
depends on the case. And I'm really interested to explore, since you had a lot of time designing the system, you thought about many attacks that can be on the system, right? And
Correct.
my my favorite type of attack, I know there are a few ones, so my favorite type of attack, Sybil attack, of course. Do you actually verify the jurors through some credentials that they are different people, not one person?
So Kleros is a coin system, shilling coin system, so your chance of being drawn in a case is proportional to your stake. So this is not something that you can civil attack. Like if you split your coins into two different addresses, your chances of being drawn stay the same. Now, like in V2, we are starting to explore courts where we don't want people to be getting multiple votes. And in this case, we are using proof of humanity, which is also a Kleros product, where you need to find someone to vouch for you. You need to make a small video to show you're human, and then you will get one identity, and you get one identity only per person. And in this case, if you are a Kleros juror on this particular court, you can only get one vote because we can prevent civil attacks. But that's obviously a bit more complex kind of onboarding compared to just taking tokens. So that's just a specific option for courts, not how the majority of disputes is being handled.
Could you describe now, since it's all based on tokens currently before version 2 is out, could you please describe what if I have, let's say, $5 million? Would it be enough to kind of change the uh, outcome of the court decision? Or basically, how can I attack the system if I have enough money to do that? And how much I can actually earn? I didn't think about it. Probably depends on the case itself and the underlying case.
Yeah, so first, most of the tokens are not there for sale. Like you have some people, they will keep their token no matter what. So if you say you have $5 million, that's more or less half of the current market cap. But if you want to buy half of the supply, you're not gonna pay the current price. Like you will have slippage. And at some point, you will even have infinite slippage because you will just have bought all the PNK which are available on other books, and you will still not have the majority. So in theory, you have what we call 51% attacks, uh, but that's what you will even have in any staking system. Like you could say, hey, like if I'm sufficiently wealthy, can I just 50% attack Ethereum? Well, in theory, yes, but in practice, no, because if you just try to buy half of the stake is, well, the price goes so high that it's not possible anymore.
Yeah, you have to do it for a really prolonged time. Like Wall Street and TradFi is currently capturing crypto assets over years and years of market depression, so to say. So it should be a really long-term attack at least in order to achieve that kind of number of tokens to be able to change the direction of the court case. Uh, so I wonder, like, since you were also involved in politics before, if we talk about like regular court systems and governments, What is your favorite one if there is like one person, one vote jury? You know, there are different court systems in the world. So somewhere it's just 12 random people chosen from the citizens that come up and then they decide. Maybe there are other structures of the process of arbitration that you know about that might be interesting to test out, or you think this is just the best one and this is what we should use till the end of humanity?
The current court system in like state court system tend to be pretty outdated. Obviously, that was a huge improvement compared to the status quo when it was implemented, like which was you just have the sovereign, which is making the law, like sometime on the fly. So that's pretty bad because you don't necessarily know if something is legal or illegal, and depending of if you're like friend or a bit critic of the sovereign, you get treated differently. So the core system when it was made was obviously a huge improvement. But now with like the digitalization, I think we can do way better core systems than what we have now in current courts, which are super slow. You know, like I've had like court cases which took like years, like maybe 3 4 years. Like that's completely crazy. You know, I had some people telling me that Kleros was slow because you could have appeals and it could take 2 weeks. Like people were complaining that we can take 2 weeks
Yeah.
when in practice, like legacy tech is taking 2 years at the very least, and more like 3 or 5 in Portugal. So
And
yes, the speed
how would you
and,
improve
and
it? Mm.
oh yeah, like if I wanted to redesign a cool system, I will digitalize most of it. So currently you get a bunch of testimonies which are just like spoken, and it's pretty hard to compare what people say and be able to respond. So like you may have a witness which may say one thing, you may have a witness which may say another thing, but those are in two different audio recording, and for a judge like to be able to put the stuff together is pretty hard. But in a Kleros court system, you have parties where they can provide evidence and then they can respond to each other evidence. So if you look at the case, you will have someone say, "Hey, this should be resolved this particular way," and they're giving some argument, and someone will say, "No," like they take the argument of the other, and then they counter with their own argument, and so
So
you
like
can see
debates.
yeah, you can see a clear debate, a clear flow of arguments, and that make everything so much legible. While like classic court process, like I feel there is a lot of kind of like almost like feeling involved. It's like, oh, like you're
Theater.
listening to a bunch of people talking, and at the end of the day, like, okay, which side do you feel is the correct one? So yeah, like I think we can do way better nowadays.
And another point why they should be digital is because you have jury, real people who come into the place and they become a vector of attack of the person who wants to change their direction of their decision, let's say, correct? And it's not anonymous, that's what I'm saying. And it's risky. There are actually, well, people are getting bought or threatened, and this is something we could change by digitalizing the
I don't see that much
process.
happening in like developed countries, like in Portugal or France. I can't think of a recent case where you had a juror being threatened. So I'm not sure it's the most pressing concern over the classical system. I think most of the concern are that it's extremely slow, that the procedure is not very clear for the juror. They have more like feelings instead of facts.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's my two main concern. Like, okay, maybe if you're in Mexico or country with cartel, maybe fear on your life may be a thing, but not in developed countries.
As always, yeah, like that. So, uh, tell us more now, I think, about the recent stuff that you're doing, which I read about, but not too much. And it's always surprising to me that you create projects that stick together, you know, so much that are part of the same puzzle, let's say. and would love to talk about the current initiatives you're doing, and later to imagine how they would, all be combined together and become some kind of foundation for the finding truth, basically. Most of the cases that you're doing.
So like Kleros, it's a way to find the truth about what happened. And now I'm also working on Seer, which is a way to find about what would happen. And obviously you cannot know what will happen, but you can have probabilities of something happening. Obviously both are linked, because if you want to have a system where you reward people if they predict correctly, you need to be able to determine what happened. And that's where you have Kleros as an oracle for prediction markets. And now
Yeah.
you have Seer, where you can trade outcomes of the future. So you're probably all familiar with things like Polymarket or Kalshi, where you can trade on elections. For example, you can trade, will Trump wins the election, will Harris wins the election, and if you buy the correct outcome and this outcome realized, you make some profit. But this is a very basic thing that you can do with prediction market. For me, I
Hmm.
see the state of prediction market now a bit similar to the state of Bitcoin in 2013. Like you had Bitcoin,
Yeah.
you could transfer some money, that's great. But now when you have blockchain technology, you can do so much more. You can make smart contract, and that's what Ethereum is doing. So now what we are building a composable prediction market. So for example, you can make a market which can ask, what would be US GDP if Trump is elected? Or what would be US GDP if Harris is elected? And that's where it starts to be more interesting, because now you can see the impact of some action on the world. So you can see, yeah, like, okay, maybe Trump is going to lead to a higher GDP, but we can make some markets. So, okay, if you have Trump, we have a higher likelihood of having a war in the US. And now, as a voter, you can take more informed decision. So here I'm still taking the example of elections, but the application are more at company or like foundation level. So if you're a foundation, you want to know, what if we take this direction? Uh, what will be our number of users? What will be the value of our token?
Yeah.
And you can compare the future with different assumptions, and you can use that to make better decision. And I think that's really where the power
Nice.
of prediction market is, being able to evaluate how different kind of futures.
Yeah. To evaluate and choose hopefully the right option, right? And this is what conditional markets give you. And does the smart contract architecture differ from regular markets, prediction markets? Or
So
does
the,
the
architect-
is the user experience different as well? Interesting.
so the architecture is not that different, because to make conditional market is pretty easy. Basically, you just make a market, but you take as your base currency the outcome of another market. So if you want to ask, what is the likelihood of the
Got
US
it.
going to war if Trump is president, you make a market where you split into Trump president and Trump not president. And now you create another market where you ask, will the US go to war? And as an input token in this market, you put Trump president, and now you have Trump president and war, Trump president and not war. And you do the same with Harris. You get Harris president and not and war, Harris president and not war. And what you do in both cases is you don't trade those composite token with dollar, but you trade those composite
Yes.
token with the input token. So a way to see
Got
it
it.
is like if you had some multiverse. So you have the current universe, you can have multiple potential universe, and in each universe, you can trade differently. And at some point, one of those universe will realize, and the trade that you did in the other universe will not matter, because they will redeem for token, which will redeem for zero. And so that's what allows you to trade conditionally. And it's not just about
Okay.
prediction market, like you can also do that for price. So for example, we at Kleros, we are using prediction market as a requirement for some proposal. And one of the requirements is that the proposal passing should not decrease the expected value of the PNK token. So now what you have some market where you can trade PNK conditionally on the proposal passing, trade PNK conditionally on the proposal not passing. And so now you have the PNK price in two different universes. And if the price in the universe where the proposal is passing is lower than the price in the universe where the proposal is not passing, the proposal will be rejected even if it were to win the vote.
Interesting. So any project could get their token and create a conditional market to, let's say, are we doing this or this? Are we spending money on this or this? And usually just one of two, right? Or you're
You can do
planning.
more things. You can have
Oh,
like, you could have, for example, you could say, hey, we want to have like, we have 10 different service providers which are
yeah.
proposing services to our foundation. And in this case, you have 10 different universe, depending of which service provider you take. And on each of these universe, you can have, okay, what will be the value of our token? What will be the amount of user we will get? And that gives you some very good insight to determine which service provider you actually want to pick.
Uh, did you already have any examples of this happening? You said you do it
Oh
with the
yeah, like for sure,
Kleros.
like in
Yeah.
the like recently in Kleros, we had a proposal to sell some PNK token to the cooperative, and this proposal was shown to slightly reduce the price of PNK. So not only it was rejected because of the market, because proposal which create PNK
Mm-hmm.
need to not decrease its price, but
Yeah.
it was also an element that people were voting took into account to vote on whether to pass or to fail the proposal. Like you could see in the comment of people on Snapshot, they would say Fudarki said no, so they voted no. And very recently, like I think 2 days ago, we had Gnosis, which started to do Fudarki for their proposal. So they put $100,000 of liquidity in Fudarki markets. And for us at the Kleros Cooperative, when we have proposal in Gnosis where we have those markets, we will follow what those markets say. So like we'll automatically vote yes for markets which are gonna increase the price of GNO, and automatically vote no for markets which are gonna decrease the price of GNO. So Futarki doesn't need to be necessarily something like a all or nothing. Like you can have Futarki just by people voting deciding to vote according to the result of Futarki. And if you have the majority of people, or if you have a huge part of people who are voting according to the result, you end up into a system which is a de facto futarchy, even if the system structure is not a futarchy itself.
Yes, yes, I got it. It's interesting. It's like it's not imperative, but if everybody uses this data, it's kind of imperative. It is for their key. Cool. This sounds awesome. I mean, you got more and more cool people using the things you built recently. Awesome,
Like,
awesome.
when you get into the prediction market rabbit hole, like that's crazy, where you find that like the vast majority of things that we do today can be made better with markets. And I think prediction markets are a very fundamental economic technology in a way where you align rewards and losses to decisions. Because currently, if you are like the leader of a foundation or a corporation and you make some bad decision, well, maybe you can be fired or maybe you lose a bit of stock options. But now if someone could have made a good decision, this person has no way to get an upside by making the good decision. Like if you're an employee of a corporation, you think, oh, we should really stop doing that, or we should really do this. You have no way of getting an economic advantage out of your knowledge, and you have no way to influence the decision. But now, if you are using prediction market, you have some knowledge, you have some conviction, you can trade on these markets, and if you are right, you will make some profit. If you are wrong, you will lose some part of your money. And because of that, you cannot just trade for what you want. You have to trade for what you think is actually optimizing the objective, which can be like trivial objectives such as token price, but you can do that for anything. Maybe you want to optimize for peace, like not being like finishing the war in Ukraine. What kind of policy do you vote, and what is the likelihood that we will stop the war in Ukraine? Like the US could do something like that.
And doesn't it lead to some kind of voter apathy because people are scared to put their money on vote because they can actually lose if they are voting for the, well, not winning bet.
So Futarchy is not free. Like you need to actually pay for the information, and the way to do so is to subsidize the liquidity. So Kleros or Gnosis, we put some LP tokens between PNK and DAI. Gnosis, I don't know if it's Gnosis and DAI or Gnosis and ETH, I don't know exactly. But then those liquidity providers, they will, on average, lose some money to people who are trading those markets. So that's the way where people who want information are paying by subsidizing liquidity. And so that means that people who are trading those markets, on average, they earn some money. So if you think that you're more likely to earn than not to earn, you should trade those markets.
Well, yeah,
It's not
yeah.
just like a zero-sum gambling, because
Mm-hmm.
trader on average should make money, and people who are subsidizing the market, they lose some money, but then they get some information, and fortunately, this information should be worth more than the money that they are losing.
And I believe since not too many people yet even know what Futurkey is or conditional prediction markets, you don't have a lot of people participating there right now, and the rewards are actually pretty good. Am I correct?
And now I think what really changed last year is that prediction market went mainstream. And you had some people which were talking about Futarchy before, where, like Robbie Hanson, I think he's been talking about Futarchy for maybe a decade now, but
Yeah.
before you didn't have crypto. So doing anything with real money was pretty hard. Like you even had the US intelligence services which were running some prediction markets, and then they even got shut down due to public pressure, where you had some people say, hey, like gambling on stuff related to terrorism is bad. It was not even like gambling on terrorism action, it was gambling on some indicator in the Middle East which should be informative of terrorism acts. But like sometimes you get like dumb people, they're like, they see, oh, like terrorism money, oh, like shut this thing down, it's unethical. um, but now, like you have poly market, you have Kalshi, prediction market are going mainstream. Even like the US president is retweeting poly market, has some son working Kalshi. So we are very far from the time where like money and was seen as something dirty in the context of prediction. So
Yeah,
yeah, like more
I
acceptance.
remember. I remember they were banned back in the last century, like 100 years ago. But
You had
now they're
some
back again.
Yeah, you had some sort of prediction market on like poor prediction, for example. At the time, they were not even calling them prediction market. They were calling them mainly like gambling, because the information produced was not very interesting. Actually, like most of prediction market today tend to be mainly gambling, but that's fine. Like that's just like a specific stage for a technology. Like if you look at Bitcoin in the early days, yeah, it was like Silk Road, so like buying drugs, and Satoshi dies, gambling. And now like we went far away from this. So yeah, gambling is something which is easy to do. Some people are attracted to it. So that's a way to test some technology in some way. So I'm not really like, my goal is not to make a gambling platform, but I'm not like
We can see that.
morally condemning anyone which is using a prediction market for gambling.
Yeah, you're applying them to things that actually help you find the truth, help companies operate better, foundations,
Yeah, it's a big difference
or even does.
with gambling and the prediction market as I envision, is that gambling is a negative sum game. So you have some bookmaker, they are selling those event contract to different people, and on average, well, people lose money and the bookmaker is making money.
Yes, yes.
For prediction market, use as information market, that should not be the case. On average, people trading should make money, and the guy making the market should lose a bit of money and gain a bunch of information.
Yeah. So both sides, usually the people who bet are on average winning because of the liquidity rewards, let's say. At the same time, the person who launches this kind of market is giving these rewards in exchange for valuable information. So everybody wins. Sweet. And you already explained how Gnosis is using Seer. And what about Gitcoin? I mean, you are exploring how to use these prediction markets conditional prediction markets in order to better allocate funding to open source projects, correct?
Yeah, so that's a deep funding experiment, where here the problematic is that you have the Ethereum Foundation. They want to allocate funding to the ecosystem depending on how projects are useful to Ethereum, but doing that at a multi-level. So not only how is this project useful for Ethereum, but also how is this project, which is used by this project, useful to Ethereum in the end. So you basically get a graph of dependencies, some projects depending on each other, and the question is that we ask is how many percent of the value of Ethereum has been created by a particular direct or indirect dependency. So if you look at project contributing to Ethereum directly, maybe you get something like 100 project, which you could probably evaluate by humans, even if it's a bit tedious. But now if you look at dependency, you get into like 3 to 4,000 projects. And at this point, like, okay, like no human can evaluate that. So what we can do, we can use conditional market again. So what we can ask first, we can have a first question, which is which of those projects are going to be evaluated? And conditionally on the project being evaluated, what would be the evaluation? And now most market are not good. Most market will be of project not evaluated, so they don't resolve, and basically people don't win or lose money. But on the few projects which end up being evaluated, the traders, they will make some profit and losses depending on the final evaluation made by some humans. And so that's a way to scale human judgment, because you only need humans to evaluate a small set of projects, and you can have AIs which can trade the full set of projects, because making an AI to evaluate one project or to evaluate 4,000 projects is not much more difficult. So you get those AI developers which are building AIs, which are predicting the evaluation, and then trading on those markets depending on their predictions. And now that gives you some market-based evaluation of all of those projects, and then you can use that to allocate funding.
Okay, that's interesting. To be honest, it's hard to grasp from the first try.
Well, this one
So
is already quite complex use case.
yeah.
I have another experiment which is going to launch next week, which is a movie experiment. So we
Oh.
want to make a rating of a bunch of movie according to my taste. I'm not gonna watch all those movies, like I'm an entrepreneur. I can spend my life watching movies. So what we do, we make some market which asks if Clement watches this movie, what would be the rating given to this movie?
Yeah.
And I'm only gonna watch a small set of those movies, and that's gonna be used to resolve the market. But then from the market, we will get a complete rating of movies according to my taste.
Awesome. Okay. That's much simpler use case, huh?
Yeah, like you can always do like start by fun stuff to explain people, but sometimes you have like a huge client, like the VF, they were really into deep funding, they're providing funding for the project. So yeah, like it's a bit more complex. But yeah, like that's when you have a real implementation. Sometimes the details can be a bit more messy than the textbook case.
So these markets, coming back to my favorite theme, which is the use of Sybil resistance against, let's say, whale manipulation. So, do you think there is any reason to create maybe like quadratic prediction markets? As in,
You don't need quadratic. You don't have this issue of wave manipulation, because manipulation doesn't stay. So if you
hmm,
are voting and a whale vote in a particular way, this vote is gonna be counted in the final tally, right? Now, if you have a prediction market and someone is buying some outcome at prices which are way higher than what it's actually worth, then someone is just gonna sell those outcome on the market, because now the price is way too high, and so then they can make some profit. So in voting, you don't get rewarded if you are kind of like fighting manipulators, but if you are fighting manipulator on a market, you are making a ton of money because you are out trading manipulators. Because manipulators, they don't want you to make profit; they want to
yeah.
provide wrong information, and that creates a huge opportunity for profit for counter manipulators. And maybe at the start, you maybe don't see that much, but imagine you are a counter manipulator, you find manipulation, you can buy the share which are overpriced, So you can sell the share which are overpriced, and you will maybe make a 2x on this. Okay, but now in the next market, now you just had 2x your money. So now you are a counter manipulator with more money.
Sure.
So you end up trading again. And you have this kind of like theorem such that if you're a counter manipulator, either you can significantly affect the market in a way where you are pushing the price back to its real value, or if you don't, you are increasing your bankroll exponentially. So either if you are too small to matter, you increase your bankroll exponentially, and then if you are too big, in this case, you don't increase your bankroll exponentially because of slippage, but because of slippage, it means that you are actually putting back the price towards the right direction. So on the long term, or even on the medium term, counter manipulators end up putting back prices closer to their real values.
Mhm. So they will just lose money in the long run.
They will lose money and they will fund like the war chest of counter manipulators, which become more and more influential.
Interesting. I haven't thought of it from this perspective. I was thinking whether the prediction market where you have fixed bets would be more efficient or not. Let's say, I mean, you have 1,000 people voting, and I cannot put $1,000 on an outcome when you just put 10. Everybody has to put 10 or 100. And how would the result change then? This is what I was really interested in.
So you could make prediction market where you could cap trading per person.
Yes.
Um, I've seen a US professor which was arguing it will work better, but I will take the opposite side of this bet. So if we had to make an experiment, that would be interesting. But my bet will be that uncapped market will work better on the long term than market where you cap per person. Because if you cap per person, the issue is that if you have a super predictor, like someone who is super good at trading markets, like
Mhm.
Domer, for example, then the super predictors end up having a very high bankroll, and because they have a high bankroll, then they influence the market more than other people.
Yeah, because they are super predictors.
Yeah.
That's why they, yeah, have more money because they were successful at predicting and not like others.
Yeah, ideally,
And
it's
yeah,
actually similar to Kleros. Like in Kleros, if you rule badly, you end up being incoherent, you end up losing your PNK, you end up losing your chance of being drawn. In markets, if you predict badly, you lose your capital, so you lose your influence in the market. And if you predict well, you increase your capital, and so you get more influence on the market.
got it.
It's a bit similar to how like capital formation works. Like if you are a good capital allocator, like let's say like Elon Musk, like okay, Elon Musk is a great capital allocator, and he makes some companies become more valuable, he gets more money himself, so then he can make more companies, right? And then if you have a guy like he gets some investment, crashes his startup, crashes a bunch of startup, he never end up being a high capital himself, and so it would have less influence on how capital of humanity is allocated. That's one of the reasons why capitalism is great. Like obviously the downside of capitalism is inequality, but the very big upside is efficient capital allocation.
There is also a lot of luck in it, right? So, and timing. You never know when your company is going to succeed because maybe you're wrong in timing. Maybe we should have started it 5 years earlier or 5 years later, like we had with prediction markets. We had so many prediction markets before polymarket, and polymarket didn't invent anything. They just did it for some reason.
Yeah,
And
Polymarket got it because one, they never gave up. Why, if you look at Augur, like the founder left for other things. If you look at the Gnosis, the project kind of like rebranded toward the other vertical, which they were successful in those, like Safe, CoSwap, Gnosis Pay. But basically, Shane never gave up. And the other thing is that that's a quote of someone at Manifest, which was Shane was not afraid of going to jail, and that's why he won. Because other people they were either okay, like prediction market are too legally dangerous, so they just stopped, or they ended up making something which was so decentralized it was not usable. The example would be Augur. where yeah, well, Augur is like fully decentralized. That's great, but when I was trying Augur, like it was a horrible user experience. Like everything running on IPFS, taking ages to load, like no way to estimate the gas properly. Waiting a couple of years when they want to go from V1 to V2 because they don't have any way to upgrade and they need to wait for all the markets to finish. Yeah, that was decentralized. This was not usable because they were scared of also regulation. So both approach to regulation, either stop everything or make something centralized, fail. And the only approach which actually worked was Shane, which was like YOLO, like maybe head I'm a billionaire and tail I'm going to jail, and he just threw the coin and it ended up on the wrong side, on the right side for him.
Yeah. And okay, I got interesting question here in my mind. So we have some parts of the society where we have equality of people voting, no matter how much money they have, and we have some parts of the societies which are based on the worth of the person or his previous success, financial one. And is there like a certain division in your head where we should have like per human model and where we should have per dollar model, or can they coexist? Like, how
Yeah,
do you think about it?
yeah. So there's the cash phrase of Futarchy, which is vote value and bet belief. So the idea of Futarchy is that you determine something you want to optimize, and then people can trade markets on what will lead to this thing, this optimization metric being high or not. So if you wanted to apply Futarchy to a nation level, you will still have people voting. They will vote, they say, oh, we want to, I don't know, like we want to reduce unemployment, increase lifespan, have good GDP, have good human development index. Okay, like they vote on those metrics. And this can still be political. Do you count the GDP? Like
Yeah.
if you get 10 people with $1,000, do you want to count that more than if you get one person with $10,000? So you still have some politics around what do we want to optimize for. But then where you remove politics is on the way to do it. Uh, if you look at the political debate, like actually in France, you can clearly see those two things. Like sometimes people they want the same thing, but they disagree on what will lead to what they want. So you have issues which are purely moral, and prediction market cannot help you on that. Like for example, you can ask, do we want to allow or to ban abortion? So this is something which is purely moral. People should vote on that. There is no market answer to that, right? But now, if you want to say, oh, should we increase taxation on the rich? Would it lead to poor people having more money or less money?
Yeah.
Some people will
Good
say, yeah, like it
question.
will, we just take money from the rich, we give it to the poor, let's give more money to the poor. Right, great, great. They can say that. But this is not something just about politics. This is not just like
We don't know the
more.
outcome before it happens, really. Yeah.
We don't, but then we have prediction market, which is the scientific method to have the best estimate of this possible. And some people do know that, okay, like this tax is gonna be bad on poor people because, like the rich people, they will just leave, you're gonna get worse economy, and at the end of the day, you're gonna tax a higher share of a smaller pie, and you will still end up with less cake in the end. And you have economists who can predict that, and they often do. Like for example, in France, we had this tax on yacht, and they were saying, "Oh, we're gonna tax rich people with yacht, and we're gonna get some money." And a bunch of people say, "Yeah, like you're not gonna get nothing on this tax. People are just gonna put their yacht and put them in some other countries." And like the tax, which was supposed to bring millions of dollars, brought 60,000 euro. And that was something which was completely predictable. And if you had a prediction market, this prediction market will have said, okay, estimated fiscal revenue, 60,000 euro, estimated net impact even lower because people left. And so they stopped paying taxes on other things of people who were working on those yachts. So actually the final result for the public treasury was negative. And that was something
Yeah.
which was completely predictable, but this was a decision which was based on moral and not based on trying to optimize for this particular outcome. And if at the time you had markets, people would probably not have voted on that. they will say, oh, yeah, well, like it's stupid to put a tax to actually have less money for the state. Even if you are in favor of a strong state, you should not do that because you want more money for your state. And I think, yeah, we can remove a lot of political division by using Fudarchy, by using rational way to determine what is going toward our goal and not toward our goal. Because, yeah, half of the politics is people disagreeing on goal, but the other half is people disagreeing on what they should do to meet their goals.
This is an interesting take. I didn't know you have a concrete answer to my question right in your head there already. Good. I think I'm completely out of questions for now, Clement. It was awesome. And well, what else do you want to discuss? Do you
I
have any
hope
questions to me?
I hope you get mind blown in the prediction market rabbit hole. And yeah, like I'm really went to the prediction market rabbit hole, and I'm super bullish on that. Like I actually think prediction market are gonna be basic economic primitive on par with the private company. Because the way private
Okay.
company allow to structure and reward proper capital allocation at a macro level, like prediction market do that, but at a micro level, at the level of the decision, not at the level of the whole project, but at the level of individual decisions. And we can play this game. Like you can give me anything you want to make better, and I can tell
Mhm.
you how to use prediction market to make that better.
Okay. Oh God, what? How can we make our health, public health better, for
Yeah, sure.
example?
So how can you use prediction market for that? So nowadays, when someone find a new medicine or a new procedure, they have to go through a long testing process. And sometime when this testing process is done, people which were affected by the disease may already have been dead. It may already be too late for them. So now what you could do, you could make prediction market where you ask, if we were to give those people the drug, what would be their expected life expectancy? If we were not to give those people the drug, what would be their expected life expectancy? And now, again, you have like this multiverse with the drug, without the drug, and in one of those, they will have a higher expected life expectancy. And if it's in the one with the drug, you can give them the drug in advance. And at the end of the day, you
Okay.
have you can see when people die. You can also do that on the study. You could just say, okay, will this study be approved or be rejected? So at the end, you still need to do the study work, but you already have a preliminary market-based result on whether we should give drugs or do procedures.
Okay. Legalization of drugs. I mean, bad ones, not good ones.
Yeah, and that will also work in the other way. Like sometimes, like you have people they make drugs, and those drugs are being sold, and at the end of the day, those drugs have more adverse effects than benefits.
Yeah,
And
it
here you would
happens.
also have market, which would say, hey, like people taking those drugs, they will get lower life expectancy or lower life quality than people not taking those, and that can
Mm-hmm.
give you a huge warning. And if you're a guy into like the pharmaceutical company, currently you basically have more or less an incentive to uh, only argue for the drug being good and shut up if you think there is some adverse effect. But now, if you have those markets and you know that there is some adverse effect, then you can go and trade on those, and that's a way where you warn people on those effects. And if you are correct, you end up winning money at the end when the market results.
I'm going through my head, and what else can I take as an example? And it really seems to me that you can use it for pretty much anything, especially like you described it. You can choose first the KPIs that people want to achieve in general, like if we can measure it happiness, but at least things like life expectancy, number of death in the childhood, all these things, right? And optimize for them and bet on the prediction market. One thing I thought before talking to you that prediction auctions are betting is that they're kind of sucking liquidity out of people investing into companies from which companies actually benefit and can grow more. Because instead of doing that right now in the let's say, dark ages, or I mean, a stone age of prediction markets, people are mostly gambling with dollars. Okay, and that's it. And this is global liquidity that is not going into, let's say, buying the equity of the company or the token of the company, but instead they're going into gambling on predictions. But as you said, with the example of Kleros or Gnosis, you can actually first buy the asset of the company, and then with this asset already invested in the company, you can go and use the prediction market, which would be a win-win eventually.
Yeah, like you don't need to just use dollar as your underlying asset. You can use like yield bearing tokens. That's what we are doing with Seer. We are using SUSDS. So the underlying token will produce some value while it's been trading on the market. And you could do that with, like basket of companies or any, like you can basically like like the magic of DeFi, you can use bricks. You can make a brick where you have some yield bearing assets, so it's still productive, and then you use this yield bearing asset to trade on markets. So it's not like you do one or the other. You can do two by layering those.
Yeah, that was really eye-opening for me today, Clement, and I hope for our listeners as well. It's so nice you're actually using these technologies not just to earn as much money as possible, but for the good reasons almost all your life. I know you're never eating the hype, but right now you eventually ended up in the most hyped industry in crypto for that moment, but still on the right side of it.
It was not on purpose. Actually, when I started on
Yeah.
prediction market, it was before Polymarket took off. And I was like, oh, like in Kleros, we've been an oracle for prediction market for quite some time now, but those markets never really popped up. And I think, oh, I may have some knowledge on how to make them pop up, and started to work on Seer. And then you had Polymarket just jumping to those highs. And instead of taking it as a bad thing, like, oh, like it's bad, we got competition, I took it as a positive, where it's, oh, we managed to unlock a particular technology. Well, when I say we,
Yeah.
that's mainly like chain, poly markets. So they managed to unlock particular technology, and this technology is a prerequisite of another technology. So prediction market are a prerequisite for stuff like futarchy or distilling human judgment, and now that prediction market are unlocked and well understood, we can do more complex and more valuable markets.
So what you just described, the mechanics you described, this is what you call distilled human judgment, correct?
The distilling management is experience in deep funding, or like for example with me, like getting a ranking of movies according to my taste. So this one is distilling human judgment. Is
Mhm.
you have some people they want to evaluate stuff, but they don't want to evaluate everything because it's tedious. So you make market on what they would evaluate if they evaluate, and they only evaluate a subset of that. So this one is distilling human judgment. And futarchy is you want to optimize on something, so you let people trade on this thing in different universe, and you end up picking the universe which is optimizing the thing you're targeting. Structurally, it looks the same. It's all conditional markets. It's just the use case is
Mhm.
different, but from a tech perspective, they're the same.
Yeah. Uh, cool, Clement. Well, I don't have any questions for you. I think we are getting to the end of our podcast today, but it was really eye-opening and interesting. Thank you so much. I
Thanks for
think
having me.
we never talked for so long, two of us, despite the fact that we met like 5 times around the world. So it was a big pleasure for me.
Pleasure for me too.
And all right, everybody, that's it. And see you next time. Next time we have either Kevin Awoki coming or Steve Keen, which are awesome people that I follow for years and years. So bye bye, everybody. And